Welcome into the Jazz Notes podcast. I'm your host, Ben Anderson.
I'm Chandler Holt.
Good to have Chandler back. You were in Arizona or Seattle?
Yes, Arizona.
Yeah. For a baby shower?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It was good. It was good. I wasn't invited to the actual baby shower part of it, but the rest of the trip was a lot of fun.
Good for you. And congratulations, Chandler got a dog this morning.
Yes.
So, good for you. It's been a good couple of weeks for Chandler, but very excited to have him back. Again, if you tuned in last week, David James filled in for Chandler. DJ and I will be doing the Jazz Notes podcast every Thursday. Chandler and I remain completely unchanged on Monday. The format's going to remain the same. We're still going to do the mailbag. I kind of expect this will be a longer podcast every Monday.
Yeah.
And Thursdays will be a little bit shorter. I'm not guaranteed on that.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but knowing what we've traditionally done, these have been 40 minutes to an hour, sometimes an hour and 20, depending on what's going on. But I think generally Mondays will probably be a little bit longer. And as always, you can find us on YouTube, find us on Twitter and Blue Sky at Ben's Hoops and C Holt Sports. And nothing should be changing for anybody. You should just be getting more and not any less. So
Yes.
Excited about this and always had fun for, what do you do? It's 2 years now? 3 years now?
3 years.
3 years we're doing the Jazz Notes podcast. So excited to keep this going. Just want to make sure everyone to know nothing is changing. We're adding more. We're not taking away anything. So as always, we will start the show with news and notes, which there was a lot since last Monday. And then we will look at the games that were, the games that will be for the Jazz coming up this week, and then we'll take a break and get to your mailbag. So let's start with the big piece of news, which is maybe the worst thing that could have happened to the Jazz.
Yeah.
Is Walker Kessler suffering a season-ending injury after just, what did he play, 6 games? Played 5, and it was the 6th game or whatever he went out, or it was the 5th game he played, he went out. Re-injured whatever his shoulder was against Phoenix. I was told by somebody who knew, like, he just kind of got banged in the preseason on early in the training camp, just kind of like got his shoulder knocked into, and I didn't think it was super serious, but they wanted to be extra cautious. And I mean, I'm sure they did testing. They test for everything. And I'm sure they didn't see anything that seemed all that serious, and it got worse. And he ends up tearing his labrum in his left shoulder and is now going to miss the remainder of the year.
Yeah, had season-ending injury. Sounds like that surgery went well, but will be out for the season. And it's kind of an interesting thing for the Jazz now because now your center rotation is Jusuf Nurkic, probably some flip minutes at the 5.
Yeah.
And then, like, I wouldn't be surprised, like, again, later in the year, you always go deeper into the bench. The rotation always looks a little bit different. Like, maybe you look to even, like, Mo Bamba or pull one of the G League guys up or something like that, Oscar Tshiebwe. So, yeah, they're very interesting for the Jazz. And like you said, worst case scenario, Walker was, like, similar to Rudy Gobert in the fact that he is the Jazz's defense, kind of. So, yeah, it will be interesting, and I think the biggest storyline going forward with that is who steps up.
He is your only shot blocker.
Yeah.
He is your only good rebounder. He's your only good weapon near the rim in the pick and roll. He's not even a great pick and roll player, but he's at least an option in that sense. He was an advantage some nights on the floor where the Jazz don't have. The Jazz usually aren't better at any position than the guy directly across from them outside of Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah.
And Lauri, because he doesn't create for himself, doesn't actually exploit those mismatches or that advantage he has very often. Walker legitimately some nights was just, let's say Walker was the 15th best center in the NBA. Half the nights he was expected to be the better player on the floor at that position, and I do think we saw that early in the year.
Yeah.
He was better than Zubac. And Zubac is a really good player, but he outplayed him by battling for position, by getting more rebounds, by scoring easy baskets, by running the floor faster. Like, he knew how to exploit some of those where, Keontae's figuring it out. Keontae's continued to have a very good year. We'll talk about that as well. But the Jazz just don't have a lot of guys who are going to win their matchup night in and night out. And even Lauri is like, we saw it against Charlotte. This was a while ago now, but he's like the king of score 29, give up 29.
Yes.
Like, Lauri will give up as many as he scores.
Yeah.
And teams attack him. Teams directly look for him and attack him, and especially now with Walker out there, let's attack whoever because just get to the paint and you'll get a layup. But, yeah, it's a major loss in that sense. Walker did things that nobody else on the floor could do, where if you lost a Keontae or if you did lose a Lauri, like, their responsibilities move to somebody else who don't do them as well as those guys, but at least there's an option to do it. The Jazz do not have an option to do it. I mean, Jusuf Nurkic is so dissimilar from Walker and how he plays, It's really hard to even maintain the semblance of the same offense or defense.
In the 5 games that he played, he was one of 3 Jazz players playing or averaging 30 or more minutes. He was at 14.4 points, 10.8 rebounds, and over 3 steals and blocks a game. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if he was healthy if that 14.4 was higher, even if he surpassed 11 rebounds. Like,
Sure.
The way that he was looking early in the season was so good that like we talked about, I think maybe after the first week, we were like, the Walker might be making the Jazz. We might be watching him make the Jazz pay him in real time.
Yeah.
And that is one of the biggest fallouts of this is now when he's out for the year, he's still going to go into restricted free agency after this year. So how does that conversation look? And I still think that this injury has no impact on the Jazz wanting him and wanting him long term.
Correct.
But still will be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, how much does that change his financials? Probably a little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, if Walker had continued to play the way he did over the first 4 or 5 games and was averaging 15 and 12 and had clearly taken a step forward, now what is he shooting, 75% from 3 or something? That was not going to happen. But like, what if he did hit 53s this year?
Mm-hmm.
That's all of a sudden a real sample size that not only can he do it a little bit, but you can grow and build on that. And then by year 3 and 4 of this contract, not of his career, but of this contract, maybe he's really worth, $40 million a year. And that's what he and his agent are pitching to the Jazz. And now it's really hard to go out and say anything beyond like, hey, we've got this 3-year schedule or this 3-year resume. Year 1 was pretty good. Year 2 was pretty bad. Year 3 was pretty good. How do you pay us off that versus how do you pay us off of what would have been or looked like was going to be a very good year 4? So that really hurts Walker.
Yes.
And we'll have to see how he responds emotionally to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he should still absolutely be expecting to sign a 9-figure contract with the Utah Jazz. Right? He'll get over $100 million. That's 9 figures. Yeah. He'll get over $100 million still.
Mm-hmm.
He should be in that 100 to 120, 130 range. And that's not a bad life at all. Obviously, he should be fine there, but it's not 160. It's not 180. And he honestly could have been putting himself in that conversation had he continued to play the way he did to begin the season. Now, how it's actually affecting the Jazz, we got some mailbag questions about it, so I don't want to go too in depth on it. But over the first, 5 games of the season, this is stark. So first 4 games of the season, Walker gets hurt against Phoenix, doesn't play the whole game. So I'll put that as the line of delineation. First 4 games of the season, Jazz were 2-2. They had the 4th ranked offense in the NBA, 120.5. And some of that is just you blew out the Clippers. It was a small sample size. But you did have a offense that was capable of scoring a lot of points. They scored 138 against Phoenix the first time they played them before that second matchup. 4th ranked offense in the NBA. In the 5 games since, with Walker hurt or out of the offense entirely, Jazz have the worst offense in the NBA. They went from 4th to 30th. So we may need to re-examine where Walker is actually most impactful.
True.
He may be a better offensive player than defensive player, and he's a pretty good defensive player, but he does so much to help the offense get easy baskets and score. Was shooting 78% from the floor this year. The Jazz go from, again, the 4th ranked offensive rating at 120.5, so 120 points per 100 possessions, down to 99.6. That's 20 points difference per 100 possessions with Walker off the floor. It's crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely. One more bit of small news, and we can transition that into talking about the last week.
Oh, and by the way, quickly, defense went from 116, which is mediocre, not great, only to 118. So actually, the Jazz's defense is kind of okay.
Yeah.
It just hasn't fallen off completely. We will see if that changes. I suspect it will. But the fact that they can't get stops means they're always taking the ball out of the basket. I think that really hurts your offense. And then vice versa, you're taking bad shots. That creates easy defense or easy baskets for the opposing offense. So it is all tied to one another.
On the opposite end of the injury spectrum, Isaiah Collier returned the other night, and we can transition that into the 3 games for the Jazz. It was a 1-2 week. Started with a improbable win over Boston in Boston, 105-103, then lost to the Pistons, 114-103, and then ended it last game with probably the worst loss of the year so far, 137-97, lost to the Timberwolves. That was an NBA Cup game.
Very surprising that they beat Boston. Nobody expected that. And again, we didn't know Walker was out for the year at that point.
Yes.
Right? He had not been ruled out yet. I didn't think the Jazz were going to win a game on this road trip. The fact that they did was very impressive. Nurk hits the game winner with less than a second left. It was just kind of a fun game. It was a very fun game to watch.
And it was the Keontae George game, without a doubt. 31 points, 9 for 16 shooting, 2 for 5 threes. That is what I look at this box score and I love the most. Keontae took 16 shots and 5 of them were threes.
I like that he took 16 shots and scored 31 points. Like if you're a coach, you've got to love that. Again, he gets to the free throw line a ton. The best thing is he was the best player on the floor in that game. And he has not really fallen off dramatically. He's kept up that high level of play early. He's still over 22 points a game. He's up at 7 assists a game. His turnovers have gone up a touch. But his three-point shooting is also starting to climb because he's had a couple of 2 of 5 games as opposed to those 1 of 7 games. And then they lose close to Detroit and played really well. And then it seems like Minnesota actually finally figured out that, the Jazz don't have a center.
Yeah.
And they were the first team to really just manhandle the Jazz. And maybe actually it was the third quarter against Detroit that the teams figured it out, because Detroit, I think, held the Jazz to 4 of 22 shooting. And they kind of just somehow hung around in that game, but it did seem like there was like a collapse, like the floor fell out below the Jazz in that third quarter in Detroit. Okay, fourth quarter, and then just true disaster against Minnesota.
Yes.
Every quarter was a disaster. They were down 29-9 or 26-6 to open the game.
First quarter ended 43-15.
Yeah, it was truly as bad a performance as I've seen the Jazz in a long time, and that includes, the 50-point masterpiece of blank from Will Hardy. I saw the Jazz lose by 50 to the Toronto Raptors a few years ago. That game was as lopsided as I've seen, and not just, and this is what I wrote about. I'm curious, is it the last game of a 5-game road trip? You just got dealt a major blow losing Walker. All these young guys want to get home. You don't have enough, regular rotation players to really fill those minutes at the moment. So is everyone just exhausted, or did we see what the rest of the season is going to look like, which is not 40-point losses, but uncompetitive contests from the opening tip? And that's the big question I have is coming out of this last week is, are we going to see more of that?
Was it the Timberwolves game, or is it a different game I'm thinking of where Keontae had like 15 in the third quarter, where he was like the whole offense?
He did that against Boston.
Boston, okay.
It was coming out of the half where the Jazz had been, I think they scored 38 points in the first half. I think they were down 48-38 at the half against Boston, if I remember correctly. Just horrendous.
Yeah,
and
46-36. No,
30.
sorry. Yes.
And then he scored 16 in the third.
Yeah.
And then, finished with 31.
As you know, and all of our people who watch these weekly know, I'm high on Keontae George, and stuff like this I'm going to continue pointing out because this is stuff you haven't seen. In that awful 40-point loss to Minnesota, Keontae still had 18 and shot 50-40 from the field.
Yeah, he was the only Jazz's only good player.
Yeah.
And Ace Bailey, actually. Ace was pretty good in this game. I thought Ace had his best game, not just because he scored 12 points, but he just continues to show that he's a part of a team. He can pass the ball. He's willing to move the ball. He plays really hard. He's probably playing too hard defensively. Like he's trying to rotate so much that he's getting lost a little bit. Yep. But he's trying so hard to I'm going to come pressure the ball on double team and help because I've been told I need help. And then I try and sprint back. He's just he's probably doing a little too much. Mm-hmm. And he will figure that out. Yes. He's just got to figure out my length allows me to not take the extra step on the closeout, which lets me get burned. Just being in the right spot is going to be more beneficial for me. But to your point about Keontae not trying to take away his shine, 18 points, not great. 19 points against Detroit, not great. But he's doing it on 18 shots. 19 points on 18 shots, even if you just shoot 6 of 18, it's not great, but you get to the free throw line enough to make up for it. Yep. Those are basically guaranteed points right now for Keontae because he's shooting almost 90% from the free throw line. He is at 90%. And then, against Minnesota, 25 minutes, he scores 18 points. Only dished out 2 assists. You'd like to see that number, but how do you get assists when your teammates aren't making shots?
Yeah, and also of note, that was Isaiah Collier's first game, and he was definitely running the point more often than not. But even with that said, I would even if Keontae's running the 2 guard as opposed to 1 for the first 6-7 games of the season, I would like if that was a 5 at least,
Yeah, for sure. And we will see what ends up happening with Isaiah Collier and what role he plays. Isaiah can be helpful. He gets into the paint, which is where Walker Kessler does all of his damage. And the Jazz don't really have anybody who gets into the paint really easily right now. So if you have Isaiah who can get there every time, it should either create easy baskets for him or create the same type of gravity that Walker has because you have to collapse, and then he can kick it out. Ideally. Yes. We will see if that actually ends up being the case.
Seeing him come back was shocking. I forgot how fast he really is.
Yeah. It's a skill. It's a legitimate elite skill that has a chance to keep him in the NBA if the rest of his game develops. I didn't think he looked great, but he wasn't terrible. He got most of his points in the fourth quarter. It felt like garbage time when it just the whole game was garbage time, but it kind of felt like he figured it out in the fourth quarter. We'll see if that carries over tonight and if Will Hardy continues to change his starting lineup. I haven't seen if we got a mailbag question about it. I still think Ace is going to move into the starting lineup at some point. It feels inevitable to me that that's going to happen. And it seems like right as it's about to happen, like you're 1 game away, Svi has a huge outing like he did against Detroit. And it's like, okay, well, you can't do it now. Svi's playing well, but I still think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Now we can talk about the next week for the Jazz until we return on Monday. First up, a rematch this time at Delta Center hosting Minnesota, and that's tonight. Minnesota currently 6-4, but they blew the brakes off the Jazz, so that record doesn't mean much really.
Yep.
And then hosting Indiana on Tuesday. Pacers are rough right now without Halliburton, 1-9.
Yeah.
And then hosting Atlanta on Thursday, they're 5-5. And then last but not least, host Chicago on Sunday. They're 6-3, but I think they started like 5-0, something like that. So sort of coming back down to earth
back
for
to
the
life.
Bulls.
Yeah. Minnesota's great. Not great, but they are much better than the Jazz. Indiana, that's a very winnable game, but it is on the second night of a back-to-back for the Jazz, which is tough. Indiana is really bad, and they're not going to try and be good because they acquired their pick for this year. It was a really smart move right before Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. So if they want to tank, they can and try and add whoever to this roster, and it would actually make a lot of sense. We'll see if they do it. I suspect they're going to. You're 1-9. There's no reason to try and turn it around at this point. Atlanta is missing Trae Young, but is playing really well. It's kind of interesting. They're almost trying to prove that they're better without him, because that way they don't have to give him a big contract, or they can just trade him or whatever they want to do. And then, Chicago's better than the Jazz. So I would say 1-3 because I think there's a chance you beat Indiana, but there's a chance you go 0-4.
I'd say 1-3 too because, there is a puncher's chance they win any of the 3 games after Minnesota, at least one of them. So I'm not going to pick which one I think, but I think 1-3 is a safe bet.
It's just the Jazz can't score.
Yeah.
They just can't score, and they're not going to get stops. The Jazz, all of a sudden, losing Walker Kessler, are truly in the Brooklyn Nets, New Orleans Pelicans, like Washington Wizards. Like the Jazz have reset themselves back to that quality of team. And they were better than that with Walker.
Yeah.
Truthfully, they were a better team than that. They were not in that tier of terrible teams, and they could have figured out how to, not win so many games that they were going to lose their pick, but they didn't necessarily need to be, there's going to be a couple of teams this year that finish, I think, with just teens victories. The Jazz could have gotten out of the teens, gotten into the 20s pretty casually, been between, I've always said 22. If you had told me they got 25 and 28 after their start, I would have believed it.
Oh, yeah.
They are really now going to win games, I think, at a pace that's more similar to somebody in the teens. It just so happens that they won a couple of games early that might get them out of that.
Yeah.
But I would reset my expectations for the Jazz down to like 20 wins now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because they've already got 3.
Yeah.
That would be 17 wins the rest of the year, which I feel for Jazz fans. I mean, this year was supposed to be more exciting. It was supposed to be more enjoyable to watch. And it still can be.
Yeah.
But, man, I was thinking, what does Will do? What does Will Hardy do? Like, that's a real tough blow.
Yeah.
And if there's a silver lining for the Jazz, it's like the decision of what you're going to be was made for you.
Yes.
You didn't have to tank. You don't have to rest guys. You don't have to have goofy injury reports. You have an authentically difficult injury report because Walker Kessler's on it every single night for the rest of the year. It's going to make you really bad.
Yeah.
And it's going to land you a top 6 or 7 pick. You're not going to worry about losing your pick. This draft doesn't just look as good as advertised. It looks better. There are more names jumping into this group now, like Koa Pete and Nate Ament, who was always expected to be top 5, but like all these dudes are living up to expectation. Like it's going to be as good as advertised. And Caleb Wilson, I think, is the kid at North Carolina. It's like all of a sudden he's throwing his name in. It's like this is going to be 7, 8 guys deep, and you just need to be in that group, and you're going to get another guy who, is, I think, worst case scenario is probably in the same caliber of an Ace Bailey type of player. Even if you're drafting at 6 or 7, and potentially above that if you end up with the top 2, 3, 4 pick. So,
I'm going to add a first half mailbag question for you. As you mentioned, it's a back-to-back for the Jazz. First tonight against Minnesota, then tomorrow against Indiana. Are there any Jazz players who might see less minutes on first or second half of a back-to-back, like with injuries, like Isaiah Collier, for example? Or do you think it'll just be whoever Will Hardy
I could see both Isaiah and Taylor.
Okay.
Taylor is questionable tonight with a hamstring soreness. I don't think you would play him back-to-back. Yeah. They might have already been willing to not play him on back-to-backs just because he's coming back from the injury. So those would be the names that I would certainly keep an eye on.
Gotcha.
Are those guys not ready to go? And that's the thing, just like Jazz have been, outside of Isaiah Collier, and I know George Niang hasn't played yet, but like they've been relatively healthy. Yeah. Their best players have been available, and now Walker's not. The moment Keontae goes down for 12 games or spread out over the season, 12 games, he usually plays a lot, which is nice, but Lowry usually misses 15 or 20 games. Yep. If that happens again this year, I mean, just talking about a lot of losses coming. I feel for Jazz fans. It's going to be a tough watch to tune in a lot of nights, unfortunately, because I think there's going to be a lot of nights where they're just not competitive. So they got to find the spark. They got to find the thing that's going to make players want to be on the roster, make players want to come to work, make players excited about the future, because otherwise, like, Nurk is a notoriously not great teammate. Now, I've loved him. I've really enjoyed covering him. I think he's been funny. He seems like he's really bought in, but like, things went really sour in Phoenix, and I don't know exactly what happened. And Charlotte was clearly happy to get rid of him. Now they got Colin Sexton. They got that was a good trade for them. But they also got a second round pick, which was weird. But like, nobody's fought necessarily super hard to keep Nurk around, it doesn't seem like. So you hope he can stay bought in and checked in. And, Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, like they're not for long in Utah, whether it's this year or the trade deadline. We don't know. Like, how long do those guys stay bought in? It's a big challenge for Will Hardy.
Yes.
Figure out how to keep everyone on board.
All right, time for a break.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll get your mailbag questions. Stick around. More Jazz Notes coming up next. Welcome back to the Jazz Notes podcast. Ben Anderson, Chandler Holt. All right, let's get to the mailbag segment of the show. As always, find me on Twitter or Blue Sky at Ben's Hoops. You can follow Chandler at C Holt Sports. I tweet it out. He always retweets it about 11 o'clock every Monday, asking for your mailbag questions. Or you can DM me. My DMs are open. Usually better to do that on Twitter. I just see it more regularly. And Dan, USU the Right Blue, does DM me. He says, how big of a hit are we going to take defensively without Walker, and who can maybe soften the blow a little bit? We've talked a little bit about the hit they're going to take.
Yeah.
What are the options to replace it? And there's a couple questions in here, so we'll blend a couple people who have asked questions about Walker. It was interesting that Danny Ainge when did they announce the injury? Wednesday?
Yes.
It was Wednesday. It was about 11:40, I think the news broke.
Earlier.
Danny Ainge came on Hans and Scotty on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone at 12:30, and he specifically mentioned Mo Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's important because Mo Bamba is not a member of the Utah Jazz. He's in the organization because he plays for the Salt Lake City Stars, but he mentioned Oscar Tshiebwe and he mentioned Mo Bamba.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing about Mo Bamba is the Jazz have a 15-man roster. It's full. They can't just sign Mo Bamba. They will get an injured player exception. It's not what it's called. Disabled player exception is what it's called. But you don't get an extra roster spot for that. You just get a little bit of money to sign a player. So the Jazz would still have to open up a roster spot if they want to bring Mo Bamba in. And I can't remember exactly what the two-way deals are, but you can't sign Mo Bamba to a two-way deal because you think he's been in the league too long.
Yeah.
So he's no longer eligible for that. So it's not like you can just say, well, Oscar, love you, but we're going to waive you and sign Mo Bamba. That's not even an option for you. So if you're going to bring in a proven player, you've got to trade Kevin Love, buy out Kevin Love, trade Kyle Anderson. Can you get a second-round pick? Do you have to give up something to get off of those guys at this point in the season? Those are the types of questions the Jazz would have to face, and it's why I kind of think maybe the answer is we're just going to watch what's happening internally and see if Kyle Filipowski can play a little bit more and whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting because looking at the roster, like, it really would have to be Kyle Anderson or Kevin Love. I don't think the Jazz will do anything with Elijah Harkless. He's been good. He's been like sort of with Cody Williams and like these guys aren't playing good. We're going here.
Yeah,
kind of lineups. So yeah, that's interesting. And I was about to say, in terms of filling whatever void is left by Walker, I almost trust Taylor Hendricks as a defender, even with his limitations right now, over both Flip and Yusuf Nurkic. But at the same time, you can't full-time run Taylor as a 5.
Yeah, they'll get more minutes. He'll get some minutes at the 5. Flip will get some minutes at the 5, but neither of those guys are full-time 5s.
Yes.
No, they'll get 12 to maybe 12 minutes a night.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can get each of them to play 10 minutes a night and you get to 20. And that way you're not asking Nurk to play 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he and Kevin Love can split the other 28 minutes and that gets you there. But yeah, man, I'm trying to look at it like you could fix it. Let's say you wanted to go out there and quote unquote fix it.
Mm-hmm.
You could probably trade for Daniel Gafford. Like, Dallas is a disaster, like a true disaster. They're going to fire Nico. Jason Kidd can't get the offense working at all. They're going to have to tank this year. Because they're going to tank, I don't think Kyrie Irving's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
They might trade Anthony Davis in season. Like, this is what happened in Dallas. Like, we haven't seen the fallout from the Luka trade. It might be devastating.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty crazy how bad this has gotten and could continue to get worse. So could you go out and trade them, get a player like Daniel Gafford who's better than a replacement center? Like, he comes in and he's a good piece. And then you say, not only is he a good piece now, he's under contract for 4 more years.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a part of your team. You're making a move that maybe you didn't think you were going to make until the offseason. You make it now, and you do that to keep the team afloat this year and then to start to build on it next year. Like, that's not the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Mm-mm.
But are you really going to go and make that type of move now, especially if you have to give something up? I don't think so.
And like Austin Ainge said straight up, we're not tanking. But looking at the Jazz roster and what their ceiling is and what is coming next June, like, I don't think like, don't get me wrong, it sucks, and you wanted to see what Walker could do, and also I know the Jazz want to pay Walker. It was just the smartest decision for them to wait. But with that said, it's probably not the worst thing looking at the whole path of the season and what could happen now that Walker's out. Like, the Jazz are going to be worse, and it won't be fabricated like it felt at times last year.
Absolutely.
So,
and what are you willing to give up to, if you were trying to bridge the gap, what are you actually willing to step off of? Like, that would be stupid to have a stopgap player that you actually give up an asset for.
yes.
To rescue stop a team from winning 18 games versus 23. Like, that's the big picture conversation, which is like, yeah, it's going to be really unpleasant. It's like, but is that better than, or is it better to try and stop that than it is to just say, hey, we got dealt a bad hand. We're going to play it out. You're going to lose a bunch of games. You're going to get a top 5 pick again, and you're going to still have the same financial flexibility this offseason. Like, truth is, I just don't think they're going to do anything serious about it. I could see them finding a way to bring up a Mo Bamba.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to make a major trade to really try and get better or replace Walker necessarily.
Yes.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm pulling this up right now, and again, this is like, there's by no means am I comparing or saying that it's okay or that you should be happy because you're not this, but like looking at the Detroit Pistons from 2008, 2009 to 2018, so a 10-year sample size, I think they had 1 year over 500.
Yeah, it was the Blake Griffin year.
Yeah.
It's the good Blake Griffin year, and that was it.
So it's like, I'm not saying like, oh, the grass is greener because it's dead over there, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's a few years and it sucks, but at the end of the day, there is proof that this is how you get better long term.
And you can't do what the Phoenix Suns have done, which is just like, well, this ship is sinking, but what if we make it sink slower?
Yeah.
Like the Jazz have sunk. This is a boat that has sunk. It sunk 2 years ago, or it started to sink after they trade Rudy and Donovan. They let it sink. You were hoping you could resurrect it or bring it up and be ready to launch next year. And maybe it still is. I actually don't think this changes. Walker's injury, I don't think changes the long-term trajectory all that much, other than it's a year of development that you would love to have him out there in a development with his teammates. That's not possible anymore. So it stinks for the Jazz. It probably doesn't. It's probably not worth trying to fix in season.
Yeah,
would be my guess. All right, what else do we have?
Okay, over to X now. First up from Sam, he asked about Walker Kessler. Should we be nervous that Walker not getting paid this offseason and then having a season-ending injury will really negatively affect his relationship with the Jazz?
It could. It happened for Gordon Hayward. He didn't get hurt, but he just didn't get his money, and he held that against the Jazz for the rest of time. I would not hold everybody to the Gordon Hayward standard. Gordon was a bit of a butthead, and Walker is less of that. But we do know, I think Walker has emotional swings. I do think he had a hard time as a sophomore. I think there was a high expectation that he was going to come in. He didn't play particularly well. He had the elbow injury. He didn't start. There were all these kind of weird things going on, and I didn't think he responded particularly well. So how is he going to respond? That's a big question for him. I did see a more mature Walker earlier this year.
Yeah.
You know, I thought he was really mature last year. He bought in. He recognized, yeah, these guys aren't going to take care of me. I have to take care of myself. How do I do what's best for Walker? And the best thing for Walker is to sign a $120 million contract this offseason. Like, and you should be happy about that. You got life-changing money.
Yeah.
It's going to set you up forever. And maybe it's not 160, but sign a 4-year deal. Maybe you get a player option in the 4th year. I don't know. Probably not. And then you're going to be 27 when you get your next contract and you can sign another $300 million deal. Like, truthfully, he probably shouldn't. What you saw from Gordon Hayward was pretty unique. Yeah. So, hey, it happens. But you know what? Go out there and win with him and give him his money and he'll be happy.
2-part question from Josh Chisholm. Starts with, how are the Jazz going to defend anyone without Walker this year? They're not.
They're not.
Yeah,
they'll play zone.
Yeah.
But I think when people realize zone, you got to realize like zone is like 4% of your possessions.
Yes.
Like it's not half of our possessions are zone. Mm-hmm. It's like literally such a small amount. But you can do that. You can play some more zone.
Like zone in the current NBA is to just like throw the offense off for a possession or two.
Yeah, we haven't gotten a stop in 3 straight possessions. Let's drop it out there. We get a stop, and then they are used to it by the next. Like zones aren't that hard to break in the NBA. Teams are too good.
Players are too talented now for zones to be like as stifling as they were, say, in the 90s.
Yeah, what Washington used to do or Syracuse used to do. It's like, yeah, okay, it was their whole thing.
Yes.
It can't be your whole thing in the NBA.
No.
It's just a wrinkle.
Yeah, exactly. And then second part, also, what's your level of concern with how poorly some of the young guys, Bryce and Taylor specifically, have been playing? I'd say at no point this year, almost no matter what happens, I would say off the top of my head, not going to be concerned with anything that Taylor does.
No, I think Taylor's actually been fine. Like, he's had a couple of good showings. He's had a couple of good, he had a really good quarter here.
Yes.
And made a bunch of plays. Like, that's plenty fine with where he is.
That's probably what you want. Like, I don't think you're going to expect Taylor to have an awesome 28 minutes in one game at any point this year. Maybe when it comes to game 16 later when he really has his legs under him. And then for Bryce, the thing with Bryce, and I would say maybe for most shooters, is confidence is the biggest thing in the world.
And especially for Bryce.
Yeah. And when you don't play defense and you get benched by Will Hardy for an entire game, then you start questioning things going into the game after. So I think that I'm not necessarily worried. I'm not he can't shoot now, but I feel like that's just something that comes with the territory.
Totally agree. Bryce got to see a couple shots go down. He has been a particular victim of Will Hardy's, not vengeance, that's the wrong word. What's the word I'm looking for? Emphasis.
Yes.
That's the word. That's a better word. And that's not to say Will Hardy's wrong. I think Will Hardy's right. If you want your guys to play defense, you have to make them play defense, and you can't just let guys stay on the floor unless they're Larry Markkinen by not playing defense.
Yes.
Bryce isn't playing good enough defense. So if your thing is, I want you guys to play defense or you're not going to play, and Bryce doesn't play good enough defense, you can't let him play. But he's also such a rhythm player that if he's not on the floor, he's not going to figure out how, he played 4 seconds, I think it was against Detroit or something. It's obviously he's not going to hit a shot at the end of the first quarter, and then he's not going to be back in the game at all. You remember, we saw what lit the spark for him last year. It was in Orlando and Miami in games he wasn't supposed to play, where somebody got hurt and he had to go out there and play all of a sudden, and he got his rhythm and he kind of kept it the rest of the game or the rest of the season. He will do that.
Yes.
The hard part, again, about Bryce is how much is enough offense from him? How much are you willing to put on his plate? And can you get more offensively out of him than he gives up defensively?
Yes.
And again, I'm a Bryce fan. I like Bryce the person quite a bit. I've gotten to talk to him a lot, and I really enjoy his outlook, and I think he's really enjoyable. But I do think that's the real gambit with him is you're really trying to find a delicate balance, which is how much can you get out of him offensively without giving up everything on defense.
I'm going to say something about Will Hardy, and then we can transition into a question about it. I covered the game. You were with your family on Halloween, and I covered the Jazz game. And I wrote about this in the article, which is a lot of Jazz fans after because his lineups were rough in that game on Halloween. I think Bryce and Taylor sort of lack of effort in the first quarter. They didn't play the rest of the game. There's a difference between letting young players play through mistakes. If you throw a lob and it's too high, or if you get read the offense play wrong and you get caught on a screen or you get backdoored, something like that. That's okay. Play through those mistakes. But if you don't have enough effort, if you're giving up easy looks, or if you just are standing still when you're supposed to be moving on offense, stuff like that, is not a young player thing. That's a basketball thing. You have to hustle and you have to have energy at all times. Yep. That's when you're getting pulled.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. There's two sides of it, and it's just not the fact that he missed a shot he's getting pulled. It's the fact that he's not having any effort, the reason he's getting pulled.
Yeah, the problem is he's letting his missed shot affect him on the other end.
Yes.
Yeah, he can't do that. And I get it. He feels like everything is make or break. He's in a contract here, right? He's trying to get his he got his 4th year option picked up, but he's trying to prove that I should get paid. Yeah. I said a week ago, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, my hot take was I thought Bryce was going to be the obvious one to get paid. That actually might still be true, but instead of it being 4 years, 45, it might be 3 years, 18. Yeah. And that's a totally different outlook. It might be 2 years, 15, 2 year 12. That's a lot different outlook, so I'm sure that pressure is there.
Transition to Julio Simone asks, Hardy said that he's going to explore different options. Do you think Will is going to make many changes?
No, because he's limited.
Yes.
He's already played Elijah Harkless a lot. Man, that is a deep pull. Cody Williams was not in the rotation to start the season, and Cody Williams has been his go-to. We're playing so bad, you guys have to watch Cody Williams play, which it's hard on Cody, but that's the truth. It's kind of been that if you guys aren't going to try hard, we'll play these other guys who will at least play hard, even if they're not as good as you are. And, he doesn't want to play Elijah. Yeah. But the truth is, Elijah was inserted into the lineup for a game and a half while Bryce sat and watched, and then Elijah, did he play against Minnesota until the 4th quarter? I'm pretty sure he didn't. He is not in the rotation.
Yes.
But he is a card that Will is willing to play. It's just really tough. Yeah. So he will make some changes. Yeah, you're going to see Flip at the 5. You're going to see stuff like that. But, you're just really limited. There's just not that many options.
I would imagine like changes would be like Ace into the starting lineup, like flip at the 5, like you said, stuff like that. Nothing huge.
Unfortunately, he's like been forced to make a lot of those already, which is, well, I told you if you don't play defense, you're not going to start. So flip, you're out.
Yeah.
But then Walker gets hurt. It's like, okay, well now Yusuf Nurkic has to start. Okay, so you've made that change. But Yusuf doesn't play any defense. So where do you go from there? It's just like, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It's a really tough spot to be in.
Next up from Jeremy Fairbanks, I'm watching Ace, it seems like he has a frame that will be able to add quite a bit of muscle down the road. How important do you think that will be for Ace to get stronger? I think it will help his game massively. I do think it'll help a lot, but I don't look at Ace and be like, you need weight like Cody last year.
No, he's not unplayable because of his size, but it will really help him.
Yes.
And again, he's probably not ever going to get as big as Taylor Hendricks is right now, but he will be closer to Taylor than he is to, Cody at this point. He will get a lot closer to what Taylor looks like. And that just kind of brings up an interesting point of where does he need to improve the most? Like, obviously, he needs to start making shots. He missed his first 3 against Minnesota, and I think it was 4 of 6. I'd have to go back and look at how many shots he actually made in the game. But he kind of got hot, and he hit his 2 threes, and like the things all work for him. Man, he's got to improve his handle. He is all loose. He lets that thing go. He can't dribble in transition right now. Like, he gets a fast break and he almost loses it every time. And I think it's because he's still playing fast. He's like nervous. I think it's better than he's shown.
Yes.
But yeah, you the kid who sleeps with the basketball and then dribbles it on his way to school. Like, Ace needs to do that. Like driving down I-15, like dribbling the ball out of his car. Ace has to learn how to dribble.
Yeah.
Like, really has to learn how to tighten up his handle a lot, because it will help him. Now, the nice thing is we've talked about with Ace, and I tweeted out the highlight over the weekend after the Minnesota disaster, is like, he can get to the rim with one dribble from beyond the half court line.
Yeah.
In a fast break. So that's a huge plus for him. And he can do it off the dead standstill catch at the 3-point line, one dribble, get to the rim. That's his best stuff. It's not a coincidence that his best stuff is when he doesn't have to dribble.
Yes.
So that's what he's got to figure out.
I Control F'd and found Ace Bailey in our notes, and I went all the way back to our pre-draft outlook on him, and I said tough shot maker but struggles with handle and creation.
Yeah.
So that has always been something with Ace Bailey.
That's the thing.
I have no worry that is not something that will be improved, especially like next year. Like, by the end of the year, he's not going to be like maybe noticeably better, or not like still something that needs to work on, but I have no worry that that's not something that will be fixed. But yeah, I'm still with you on the fact that he will get moved into the starting lineup at some point.
No question.
From Coleman Larson.
He kind of has to.
Yeah.
The truth is he kind of has to.
Yes.
They might need his offense, and I think his offense is going to grow. Look, and you can play him with speed. That's the thing. Like, maybe Isaiah Collier doesn't start. Like, what you've been seeing from Ace a lot is actually he's playing the 3 a lot. And maybe that's because there is less ball handling responsibility. The reason Isaiah Collier started, according to Will Hardy, was because he felt they were getting stood up in the backcourt too much. They couldn't dribble the ball. They couldn't get into their offense. Well, Svi helps you do that. He's a secondary ball handler. Ace does not. So you can start Ace, Svi, and Keontae and still get some ball handling because Svi can do it a little bit. Yeah. I don't think Isaiah and Keontae are full-time starters together. Yeah. Anyways.
From Coleman Larson, when are we getting Kelly Olynyk back?
Again, Kelly just doesn't solve what you do is the problem. Like, honestly, you might as well just play Mo Bamba. You might as well go sign Mo Bamba and figure out how to get that working. But I get the joke. Yeah. I get it.
Cameron Grant says, how will the center position be affected with Walker out for the season? Does Nurk give us any more than rebounding? Who slides in as backup, or do we get anyone with that injury exception? Like we talked about, Nurk is just by default going to get more minutes. Probably not like 10 more minutes, but he's going to play more. And then it's sort of like a who's who of Taylor Hendricks flip filling in minutes at the 5.
Yeah. It's just a bad spot.
Yeah.
It's just a really bad spot to be in. You're asking guys who aren't capable of doing this much to do this much. It's horrible.
It kind of sucks. I feel like center is by far the worst off position that Jazz are with losing their starter. Like,
yeah, it was the most irreplaceable.
Yes.
No question about it.
Which is kind of funny because we have talked about how centers are like the easiest thing to go grab and get a solid one.
Yeah, you can go get a good backup center.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But getting a starting center is a totally different conversation.
Yes. Next up from Klaus. Cody played really well in his limited minutes. Finishing at the rim seems solid. Defense seems really improved. Do you see any chance that Cody plays more?
Cody has played okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still weird how often he airballs
has
8-footers. Yeah. It's like I've never seen that. I've honestly never seen a player with this weird of touch because he didn't show it in college. He had a bunch of kind of interesting finishing moves, but he doesn't quite know what he's doing yet. So he still has some weird stuff. Now, with that said, in 5 games, it's 5 games, but he is shooting 50% from the floor and he's shooting 33% from 3. It's because he's 2 of 6 again, but hey, it's better than 1 of 10 or 0 of 11. So he has shown a little bit more. He has 50% from the free throw line. I think there's a chance he's taken 2 free throws. I don't. Let me pull up his stats this year. I kind of bet he's taken 2 free throws.
Yeah.
Maybe he's taken 4 and he's missed 2 of them. He's taken 2.
Okay.
The reason he is shooting 50% from the floor is because he's gotten a lot of opportunities in transition. Now, part of the reason he's getting opportunities in transition, he's got some pokeaways. He's active in passing lanes. So I'm with you. I wouldn't sell all my Cody Williams stock.
Yeah.
I'm not betting on him being a top 3 or 4 player on the roster ever, but teams need to have the 8th best player on their team, and maybe that's who Cody ends up being. Now, the question is, can you draft a guy 10th overall and keep him around on your roster if he ends up being the 10th guy? That's what the Cavs tried to do with Isaac Okoro, and now he plays for the Bulls. There's a real pathway for that to be Cody Williams' life, where he plays in the NBA for a while, but certainly never lives up to the lottery billing.
Yeah.
You might see Cody. I think Will Hardy. The nice thing about the Walker Kessler injury is he's going to be able to do whatever he wants.
Yes.
It doesn't really matter. There's not a lot of consequences anymore.
And like you have said multiple times, like if Cody Williams ends up being the 7th or 8th best player on the roster and his best thing is defense, like you can still be an NBA player. Like,
yeah, for sure. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, maybe
it's exactly what Isaac Okoro is.
Yes. Maybe you play 8, 10, 12 minutes a game max, but you still have a spot on an NBA roster and you're in a rotation. And the nice thing about like defensive first guys is you're a utility guy. Like, oh, it's the end of the half and we need to put 2 guys on this guy who's hot or something like that. Like you have use.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Next from Connor Morris. Seems like in the last game, Ace wasn't getting the ball too much at the end of the game. Do you think there is a conflict with other young guys wanting to show what they can do or not being self-aware and realizing Ace should get the ball more?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no one. Look, this is the knock on the Jazz right now. It's a real problem that losing Walker Kessler hurts with Keontae. Like, there's no 2-man game.
Yes.
There is not. Like, watch other teams. You'd be like, oh, these guys have real chemistry on the court. These 2 guys. And I thought Keontae and Walker started to show it a little bit early in the year. They were like, oh, he knows where he's going to be, so he's going to throw some passes there. That really helped. I don't know if anyone on this team is looking out for somebody else on this team. Is like, well, this is going to help them. And maybe Isaiah coming back can help that because he's a little bit more of a playmaker. But we've talked about how bad of a passing team the Jazz are, and that's a part of it.
Yeah.
And look, I'm sure there are guys who don't want to give the ball to Ace because the first 5 games he played, the ball didn't come back. If it went to Ace, the shot went up and it didn't stop. I think he's shown a little more willingness to pass the ball. But yeah, if you haven't played the first 3 quarters and you're Bryce Sensabaugh and you come in, or you're, Cody Williams or whatever who comes in, it's like, are you going to look for Ace? Like, you don't care.
Yeah.
You don't care if Ace gets his. That's not your thought process, which actually I wonder is why if you need to move him to the starting lineup for that reason, because at least you come into the game as a starter with the idea of like the ball's going to move.
Yeah.
And Ace will get some touches that way. And I still believe that while the Jazz want Ace to learn all the good habits and earn his spot, et cetera, they know he's got to get touches. They know that him developing with touches is going to be a good thing. And one of the really interesting things still is that when you hear Will Hardy talk about Ace, and I retweeted a clip from JP Chunga from the Jazz about Will talking about Ace, like it's always positive. It's always like we were trying to figure out exactly what he can do and kind of restart from square one, but we're excited about how many different things there are. We're trying to figure out what actually those are. It's not like Ace is doing this wrong and Ace is doing this wrong and I hate that he does this, and not that Will's ever said I hate that he does this, but about anybody, but you kind of still get a sense that they're excited about him and they want to see how much they can give him. But yes, they watched the film in the 4th quarter and they saw Ace stand and stand and stand and stand and stand and not touch the ball.
Yeah.
Like, they know what this is about.
Yeah.
They wanted to be more competitive, but they know Ace developing is got to be a really important part of it.
I want to go back to the chemistry thing that you said. And that's such a good point, because even with like now Key and Lowry, for example, like Keontae will have some good sort of like entry passes if the defender is fronting Lowry and he gets an alley-oop or a layup or something like that. But there's a lot of cases of really good NBA teams where it's like, electrons around an atom. You know, like they're constantly flowing and going in like patterns and all this stuff. And
Watch
they're really
4 consecutive plays from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yes, and that's what it is. And like you can best case scenario, you have that with all 5 guys, and then there's some cases where it's your 2 best players, for example. But you're really right that the Jazz don't have that. And I feel like for a rookie, it would be so much easier to come into a team like that because then you just sort of fit in and you find your path.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But like I feel like Ace is kind of in a weird position where it's like you have to make your own path, but also you're a rookie. So like you don't have the voice to really do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's sort of the situation.
It's not helping him.
Yes.
Certainly not helping him.
Next, from Alex Atwood. How do you feel about Will Hardy saying it's hard to keep NBA players motivated? Do players not buy in because some guys are favored? The scheme doesn't fit certain play styles, or is there another reason?
It's a lot of games.
Yes.
82 games is a lot. So there's a lot of basketball. And guaranteed contracts make it so you've got your money coming to you regardless of what the outcome of the team is. The hard part about tanking seasons is you're trying to constantly fight getting okay with losing, and you train a dog. You just got a puppy. Like, let the dog do bad things over and over and over and see if you can train it out of them. Gets really hard to train it out of them. Easier to do when they're puppies and say, well, you got to go outside and you got to do this and that, and you can't bark or whatever. But that's harder to do with a 4-year-old.
Yes.
It's easier to do with a 6-month-old. And the Jazz have had 6-month-old dogs that I don't want to sound derogatory. They've had young players that are influential, easy to influence, come up in teams where it doesn't matter if you win or lose.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be hard to flip some of that switch. And then on the flip side of it, you look at guys like Nurk and guys like Kyle Anderson and guys like Kevin Love, who their legacies are not written by what happens with the Utah Jazz. Yeah. Their paychecks are written by what happens with the Utah Jazz. But again, they're guaranteed, so who cares?
Yeah.
So that's the other issue. It's like Will Hardy is dealing with a really, really bad hand.
Yeah.
This has really not been opportune for him. And worse yet, they haven't drafted the guy that's like the obvious, like, this is what the whole thing can be about.
Yeah.
I think Keontae's played really well. I think Ace has a very bright future. They did not get Cade Cunningham. They did not get Cooper Flagg.
Yeah.
And Cooper hasn't even been that guy yet. So, but, we're talking about that obvious number one piece that's like, okay, this is the identity. Let's start building off of that. Like, there is still some like throwing darts in the dark at what's going on with the Jazz right now. As far as like, I love what we've seen from Keontae.
Yeah,
I think he's proven that he's like going to be a good NBA player and can be around for a long time. It's like, can you tell me anyone who's gonna be on this roster in 3 years, like that you know of for sure, or like is going to be the best player on the team in 3 years? Like, the truth is, the best player on this team in 3 years is probably not on the roster still right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a really hard way to develop anything. This has all been about growth and development. It's like, it's hard to do that until you have the guy. And that's probably what this year's draft is about again. So I really do feel for Will Hardy.
Yeah. The thing with player development, I feel like it's 75% the team and 25% how malleable the player is. And like, for example, if LaMelo Ball might be a bad case of the 25%, but if LaMelo Ball was drafted by San Antonio instead of Charlotte, like maybe he's an all NBA guard right now instead of like a cool all-star,
For sure.
And it's like, there's a lot of different people in the Jazz organization compared to the like early Donovan and Rudy days. And I think the early example of how player development now for the Jazz is Keontae. He's having a good year right now. He showed maturity, and I think that's a good sign, but it remains to be seen for guys like Taylor, Cody, of course, Ace, Walt. So it's interesting. And like going back to the question, NBA players motivated, like when you start, like for the Pacers, 1-9, I know it's a weird case for them, but like you're like, oh, we're 1-9, we're winning 10% of our games, and there's 72 games left.
Yeah.
So
yeah, outside of a couple of guys who are, Ben Mathurin fighting for a contract. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a run out the clock situation.
Yes. Last question, I believe, from Ski and Sport Utah. Can you make a compelling argument for why we should care/watch? I got monthly SAG Pluses. I was excited to watch Ace Bailey. I canceled it after the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not going to sell you on something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you either love it or you don't.
Yes.
And this is a season for fans who love it.
Yes.
Who are bummed that the Jazz are not playing on a Saturday or a Sunday night. Like that's what these seasons are about right now. This is the difficult part of being a basketball fan.
Yes.
Teams go through these ebbs and flows, and again, I think that what the ownership decided was that this pain was a better type of pain because they think the payoff is better than what Stockton and Malone delivered, which is never getting a championship. Like the pain of losing the last game of the season every single year is worse than what is happening right now.
Yes.
In the big picture, in the long run, that you get these young guys, you develop them the right way, and eventually you can win that last game of the season, which is the finals, and you get to hoist the trophy. And that this pain as a Jazz fan is worth it. And what they went through growing up watching the team was not. So that's, I think, the sale. That's what they're selling.
Yeah.
Is it going to come true? I don't know. I wish I had a crystal ball. I don't. But that's, I think, kind of what part of the bet is. And yeah, if you don't absolutely love it every night, this is not going to be a team that rewards you.
Yeah. My advice, coming from a sports fan my entire life, if you love the Jazz specifically, if you love basketball and you love the Jazz, then you're like, I feel like no matter what you do, you're going to be tuned in every single night. At least like, oh, I can't watch the game, I'll look at the box score after, at the least. But if you love Utah and you love your home, you love local sports, then put it on in the background while you're making dinner. Like, you don't have to be tuned in for all 82 games of the season. Like, watch the Mammoth instead when they're playing at the same time.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. That's where I come from.
Yeah, the nice thing is games are free.
Yes.
I'm sure they would love you to keep your SCG Plus subscription, but you get a digital antenna or rabbit ears and you watch the game on 14.
Yes.
It's like that option is out there for you as well. So,
yeah.
I guess, again, I don't need to sell the team. It's not my job to sell the team. I don't really care to sell the team. But yeah, I think if you're going to watch it, it's because you're a diehard right now.
Yes.
And I recognize that that's who is watching it right now. And that's
probably who's watching this right now.
Yeah, you're tuning in, you're DMing us and listening to this podcast. You're a diehard.
Yeah.
You're a sicko. Congratulations. So am I. I'm an NBA sicko.
Yes.
I've watched more Pelicans games this year than I care to admit. Not been rewarded for it, but I like watching it because I'm a sicko. I like basketball.
I will say,
watch it a lot.
As down on him as we were, Jeremiah Fears is pretty fun to watch.
Jeremiah Fears is playing good.
Yeah.
And actually, weirdly, so is, who's the guy they traded for? The other
Derek Queen.
Derek Queen. He's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
They are a disaster.
Yeah.
You want me to sell you on it? You're not a Pelicans fan.
Yeah.
Like, the Pelicans traded.
Oh.
Imagine if the Jazz didn't have their first round draft pick this year. It's like, it's always the no pawn ace up your sleeve. Like, it's always the card you can say, like, but maybe next year, maybe AJ DeBonzo or Cam Boozer or all these guys who are exceeding expectations. These guys are better than you had hoped early on. One of these guys joins your roster next year, and it's all been worth it. All the pain's been worth it. Like, imagine if the Jazz had traded their first round pick to go from Walt Clayton to Cedric Coward, or you know what I mean? Like, that's exactly what they did. It's like, okay, maybe Derek Queen's fine. There's no way he's going to live up to them having 2 wins on the season and having a 15% chance of winning the lottery and like getting a top 7 pick in this year's draft. It's truly malpractice.
They genuinely could be the top 5 guaranteed team.
Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
They could be a team that is not going to fall terribly far at all. Yeah, it's truly horrendous. So, a joke of a franchise, and I don't think the Jazz are a joke of a franchise. You might disagree. I don't think they are. Some people may. Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. As always, find us on Twitter, Ben's Hoops, Holt Sports. We will be back with you next Monday. I'll be back with DJ coming up on Thursday. These are all going up on YouTube, and you can read us at kslsports.com. We'll talk to you again later this week.